It should come as no surprise that the Vatican may be hiding some pretty crazy stuff in its secret archives. I mean, why else would they be secret? From proof of giants to chained fallen angels beneath the Vatican, and a device that allows you to see the past, you won't want to miss this. So grab a drink and get comfortable, and let's get into it. Proof of giants. Have you ever stumbled upon a wild conspiracy theory on the internet? They pop up like mushrooms after rain, and here's a juicy one. The Vatican and the Smithsonian are hiding evidence of gigantic human skeletons. Could there be any truth to this theory? According to conspiracy theorists, the Vatican, with the help of the Smithsonian, has discovered enormous human skeletons. These bones supposedly challenge our understanding of human evolution, so naturally they're being hidden from the public. Why? To prevent chaos, of course. The story even includes some hilariously bad photoshopped evidence making the rounds on social media. One Twitter user, Merked, claimed that thousands of these giant skeletons were found and most were destroyed or tossed into the ocean. This was because explaining their existence would contradict the well-established theory of human evolution. The tweet was accompanied by a poorly doctored image, which other users quickly mocked. For instance, Feed Me Shrimp humorously pointed out the amateurish quality of the photo, suggesting a cleanup with a clone stamp tool. But can giants even exist? Let's talk science for a second. The square-cube law tells us that as an object's size increases, its volume grows faster than its surface area. For a giant human, this means their bones and muscles would need to support much more weight than they can handle. Imagine a 60-foot-tall person. Their bones would be under enormous stress, likely crumbling under their own weight. So physically, giant humans as described in these theories couldn't exist. But what about real giants? While giants as described by the conspiracy don't hold up to scientific scrutiny, there have been unusually tall people in history. National Geographic once featured a man from 3rd century Rome who stood 6 feet 8 inches tall, a giant in his time, since average height was around 5 feet 5 inches. Modern-day giants, like the world's tallest man, who stand over 8 feet, often have medical conditions like gigantism. This is caused by a pituitary tumor that leads to excessive growth hormone production. In 2012, archaeologists found a skeleton in Rome that was examined and found to have signs of gigantism. The individual had a pituitary tumor, leading to excessive growth. The bones showed evidence of ongoing growth, even in early adulthood. The person likely died young due to health issues linked to gigantism, such as cardiovascular and respiratory problems. So what's the verdict here? In the end, while the internet loves a good conspiracy theory, the idea of the Vatican hiding giant skeletons doesn't exactly hold up. The photos are fake, and the science debunks the possibility of such giants even existing. Sorry to disappoint. Death Hammer. You've most likely never heard the eerie tale of the Vatican's Death Hammer before, so let me tell you. The name Death Hammer sounds pretty scary, but don't worry, it's not as bad as you might think. According to the Apostolic Constitution Universi Dominici Gregis, issued by Pope John Paul II in 1996, there's an ancient tradition to confirm a pope's death. The Cardinal Camerlengo gently strikes the Pope's head with a small silver hammer and calls out his Christian name 3 times. Sounds like the opposite of what they do during an exorcism, but okay. This occurs after doctors officially confirm the Pope's passing. Maybe they had some popes fake their deaths in the past. Who knows? Once the Pope's death is confirmed, the Cardinal Camerlengo, who manages the Vatican during the transitional period between popes, declares the Pope's death in the presence of key Vatican officials. The Camerlengo then takes possession of the Pope's fisherman's ring and the papal seal, both of which are later destroyed before the College of Cardinals. After that, the papal apartments in the Vatican and at Castel Gandolfo are sealed off. The Cardinal Camerlengo informs the Vicar of Rome, who then informs the people of Rome. The Dean of the College of Cardinals communicates the death to other cardinals, diplomats, and heads of state. The mourning period lasts 9 days, and the Pope is then buried between the 4th and 6th day after his death. Now, this is where the story gets murky. News outlets often tout the silver hammer tradition as fact, furthering its credibility. However, some reports suggest the use of the silver hammer ended with the reforms of the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s. Regardless of this, the Cardinal Camerlengo is still believed to use a silver mallet to destroy the papal rings and seals. This symbolizes the end of the Pope's reign and safeguards against forgeries. Historically, the hammer was part of ensuring that the Pope was truly deceased. In times past, the fear of being buried alive led to extreme measures to confirm death. This included surgical incisions, applying boiling liquids, or even decapitation. Such measures were to ensure the deceased did not unexpectedly wake up after being buried. I mean, I'd rather wake up in a coffin than be decapitated while still alive, but that's just me, I guess. When Pope John Paul II died in 2005, conflicting reports emerged about the silver hammer. Some claimed it was still in use, while others said it was a long discontinued practice. The truth seems to be somewhere in between, with the hammer now serving a more symbolic role, if it's even used at all. And there you have it. The tale of the Vatican's death hammer is a blend of historical tradition and modern myth. While it likely started as a practical tool to confirm death, it appears to have evolved into a symbolic ritual, if it is still practiced today. Until an official Vatican source clarifies the matter, the legend of the death hammer remains an interesting mix of fact and fiction. So is the death hammer real? The answer is both yes and no, reflecting centuries of evolving practices and the enduring mystique of Vatican traditions. And now for number 8, but first it's shout-out time. I wanted to give a big thank you to Edwin Pina and Brett Venice for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. Fallen angels chained beneath Vatican. No doubt you've heard the story of the fallen angels. You know, the angels that fell from heaven after Satan led his revolt against God. According to the Bible, those angels were cast down to hell where they were bound in eternal chains. But some people disagree with this, like so-called prayer walker Henry Grover. Instead, Grover is convinced that these fallen angels are chained under the streets of Rome, beneath the Vatican. I know what you're thinking. That's impossible. I mean, how could the Vatican even contain celestial beings? Well, nobody really knows. But according to Grover, with his own eyes, he saw these fallen angels, at least 2 of them, bound in chains up to their chins. In an interview with director Steve Quayle, he spilled all the beans about his amazing encounter. But who exactly was Henry Grover, and is he to be trusted? According to his obituary, Grover was called to serve the Lord at just 18 years old. He worked in electronic engineering until his late 30s, when he decided to retire and enter into full-time ministry. Around that same time, he formed Joyful Sound Ministries with his wife Judith. Over the years, he gained a following of like-minded people who believed in God and his power. For over 50 years until his death in 2019, Grover allegedly followed the Holy Spirit around the globe, praying in more than 70 nations and countless cities across 6 different continents. Grover was labeled a prayer walker to the nations. But what does that mean? Well, it means that he went where he was prompted to by the Holy Spirit and handed out small pamphlets that explained the gospel of Jesus Christ. You know those people you sometimes find on street corners preaching the gospel and handing out small religious booklets? That was essentially what Grover did with his free time. Grover had so much faith in God that he was often translated by the Holy Spirit. And what that means is that he would sometimes be supernaturally transported through prayer to different locations. At least that's what he claimed in his interview with Steve Quayle. He said that on one occasion, himself and 6 of his spiritual commando friends from different countries were transported from America to Rome in an instant. He said in the vision of sorts that he and his friends passed through an iron gate and then traveled down ancient steps until they reached an arched entranceway. And what do you think they saw inside that doorway? You guessed it, angels. According to Grover's account, he and his spiritual buddies saw 2 massive angels, one on the left and one on the right. And the second his foot entered this place, one of the angels in a loud, deep voice said to him, "You shouldn't be here." He described the fallen angels as being grayish-black in color with blood-red eyes. And these things were huge. They were allegedly about 30 feet tall with giant wings. Groover said they could have popped his head off with no effort at all if they were able to move freely. He supposedly had an exchange with these angels, and then just as suddenly as he appeared in Rome, he was back in America. Now, Groover didn't say explicitly that these fallen angels were involved with the Vatican, or that the Vatican were holding these angels captive, but other rumors claim just that. To some, these angels are in chains deep beneath the Vatican, providing invaluable knowledge to the Church that gives them power and influence. Either that or the angels themselves contain power that the Church seeks to harness for their own purposes. But what do you think? Is this story at all believable? It sounds a little far-fetched, doesn't it? But then again, there's a lot of crazy stories that turn out to be true. The Vatican's secret time machine. Have you ever wondered if it's possible to see into the past? According to a Vatican priest named Pellegrino Ernetti, it is. He claimed to have invented a device called the chronovisor, which allows users to view historical events. But what exactly is the chronovisor? The chronovisor is said to be a device that lets people see through time. Imagine a machine that acts like a television, displaying events from the past as if they were happening right in front of you. Sounds incredible, right? According to Father Francois Bruin's 2002 book, Le Nouveau Mystère de Vatican, the chronovisor was developed by Father Ernetti with the help of 12 scientists. These scientists included Nobel Prize-winning physicist Enrico Fermi and former Nazi scientist Werner von Braun. How was the chronovisor built, you may be asking? The chronovisor supposedly consisted of cathode rays, antennae, and special metals that could receive sound and light signals from any time period. Ernetti claimed that the machine could tune into specific eras using a direction finder, displaying the chosen time period on a screen, and even recording it. This device was not a time machine in the traditional sense. Instead, it worked more like a window into the past, capturing echoes from history. Ernetti made some bold claims about what he had seen using the chronovisor. He mentioned witnessing famous events like Marcus Tullius Cicero's speech to the Roman Senate in 63 BC, and most astonishingly, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Ernetti's descriptions were detailed, and he even provided a photograph of the crucifixion, which was published in an Italian magazine in 1972. However, skeptics quickly pointed out that the photo resembled a known statue of Jesus from an Umbrian church, casting doubt on Ernetti's story. Until his death in 1994, Ernetti maintained that the Vatican had hidden the chronovisor to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. He claimed that Pope Pius XII forbade the disclosure of the device's details, fearing it could restrict human freedom. The Vatican even decreed in 1988 that anyone using such a device would be excommunicated. But is the chronovisor real, or is it nothing but a legend? Well, despite Ernetti's assertions, many of his claims have been debunked. Critics argue that the supposed photograph of Jesus was a reproduction, and that Ernetti never provided detailed instructions on how to build the device. Also, the design of the chronovisor closely resembles a device from a 1947 sci-fi novel, raising questions about its authenticity. Some reports suggest that Ernetti confessed to fabricating the story before his death, but this remains contested. Elongated skulls. Is the Vatican hiding evidence of extraterrestrials? According to the show Unsealed, Alien Files on the Science Channel, they definitely are. Let's unpack this sensational story and see what's behind these out-of-this-world claims. In 2014, the show suggested that the Vatican might be concealing evidence of aliens. They even interviewed Dr. Jose Funes, a priest and director of the Vatican Observatory. Funes mentioned the possibility of life evolving elsewhere in the universe due to its vastness, and this statement was followed by a dramatic voiceover declaring that the Vatican acknowledges the likelihood of alien life. This was a major shift in a 2,000-year-old policy of denying such things. So this begs the question, what does the Church know about aliens that prompted such a reversal? The show claimed that the Vatican's secret archives, which span 52 miles of shelving and contain over 32,000 documents, hold evidence of alien life. The voiceover dramatically suggested that these secrets won't stay buried forever, implying that new evidence could prove that the Vatican is hiding aliens from the public. The program also mentioned skulls with elongated heads and small faces that were allegedly found under the Vatican Library in 1998. However, access to the site has been denied, fueling further speculation. But what do you think? Are we being misled? The show's claims are definitely interesting, but they lack substantial evidence. The Science Channel's dramatic presentation might make you wonder if you need to be a bit eccentric to work there. Bill Donahue, the president of the Catholic League, commented on the show after it aired. He humorously questioned the credibility of these claims and criticized the lack of concrete proof. So what did Dr. Funes really say? Well, his comment about the possibility of life elsewhere in the universe is scientifically reasonable and not particularly groundbreaking. The universe is vast, and the idea that life could evolve elsewhere is a common scientific hypothesis. However, the show used his statement to suggest that the Vatican might be hiding alien evidence, which is a major leap from what was actually said. What about the skulls they found under the Vatican Library, though? Were they real? The program's claim about the elongated skulls is one of the most tantalizing parts of the story. But unfortunately, there's no verified evidence to support this. Skeptics argue that without access to these alleged sites and artifacts, such claims remain in the realm of speculation and science fiction. The verdict? While the idea of the Vatican hiding alien skulls makes for great television, the evidence supporting these claims is flimsy at best. The dramatic assertions made on the show seem more suited to the Sci-Fi Channel than a serious scientific discussion. So next time you hear about alien secrets hidden by the Vatican, take it with a grain. And remember that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. But there's been elongated skulls found in other places around the world, like Peru and Africa. Would it really be that crazy if some were found beneath the Vatican? The Vatican's creepy sculpture, the Resurrection. There's a sculpture in the Vatican that looks downright cursed, and while it's not much of a secret, not many people know the story behind it. The sculpture is called the Resurrection. It's a massive modern artwork that looks like it could have been made by the devil himself. Located in the Paul VI Audience Hall, the Resurrection is a colossal sculpture that was created by artist Pericle Fazzini. It serves as a dramatic backdrop behind the stage where the Pope holds weekly audiences. This artwork has sparked numerous conspiracy theories, with some claiming it depicts demonic imagery and snake-like features. But why? The sculpture was unveiled in 1977. It stands 66 feet tall and 23 feet wide. According to Fazzini, it depicts Jesus rising from the crater of a nuclear bomb in the Garden of Gethsemane. Wait, what? A nuclear bomb? Yes, you heard that right. This striking imagery was meant to convey the chaos and destruction from which Christ emerges. It is supposed to symbolize hope and resurrection amidst devastation. So if that's the case, why do people think it's demonic? Well, I mean, just look at this thing. The sculpture's chaotic design, with twisted shapes representing rocks, roots, and branches, creates a haunting and unsettling visual. Jesus, with long hair and a beard, appears to be rising majestically from the chaos, his face showing signs of inner pain. This unsettling portrayal has led some to interpret it as demonic, and this is further fueled by the hall's snake-like architectural design. The story of the resurrection began in 1964, when Pope Paul VI appointed architect Pier Luigi Nervi to create the Paul VI Audience Hall. Construction started in 1966 and was completed in 1971. Fazzini was commissioned in 1972 to create the sculpture after several years of communication with the Vatican. He finished the piece in 1977, just in time for the Pope's 80th birthday. Fazzini envisioned the sculpture as an explosion of natural elements: olive trees, stones, clouds, and lightning bolts, with Christ rising from the chaos. But given its unsettling look, it's no wonder the resurrection has become a magnet for conspiracy theories. Some claim it depicts Baphomet, a deity associated with the occult and Illuminati symbolism. They argue that if viewed from the right angle, the sculpture resembles a goat's head staring back ominously. So is there a deeper meaning behind this thing? Well, despite the creepy interpretations, the sculpture has a profound message. It reflects the tension and fear of the Cold War era, when nuclear war was a real threat. Fazzini wanted to capture the anguish of that time while also offering hope. The sculpture reminds Christians that amidst chaos and destruction, there is always hope in Christ's resurrection. But for anyone else looking at this thing, it's just a really strange sculpture that gives you the creeps. Nazi artwork. Some people believe that the Vatican is hiding some Nazi loot within its secret archives, and they're refusing to admit it. But is it true? Listen to this and let me know what you think in the comments below. During World War II, many believed that the Vatican was not only aware of Nazi concentration camps, but also profited from them. Priests and Vatican insiders allegedly kept silent about the atrocities and instead helped Nazis hide millions of dollars, valuable art, and antiques. According to scholars and lawyers, the Vatican Bank engaged in money laundering, sold stolen Nazi loot, and even dealt with the insurance policies of Jewish refugees killed in death camps. Attorney Jonathan Levy claims that after the genocidal murders of 500,000 Jews, Serbs, and Gypsies, the profits from stolen valuables were deposited at the Vatican Bank in 1946. In 1976, a court granted the Vatican Bank immunity under the Foreign Service Immunities Act. However, in 2010, Holocaust survivors accused the Vatican of laundering stolen valuables and asked the European Commission to investigate. For decades, the Vatican has been accused of hoarding and selling stolen Nazi art. But despite these accusations, the Vatican refuses to open its World War II correspondence vaults. If they have nothing to hide, why not reveal the archives? Seems pretty suspicious. Gerald Posner's book, God's Bankers: A History of Money and Power at the Vatican, exposes numerous alleged sins of the Roman Catholic Church. These sins include its dealings with the Nazis and laundering blood money. The Vatican is quite evasive about its finances, but estimates put its wealth in the hundreds of billions. It's thought that millions of dollars in cash were taken from mafia leaders during World War II. And allegedly, Pope Francis is now trying to clean up the Vatican Bank's shady dealings by closing accounts held by dubious individuals. During World War II, priests reported Nazi prison camp activities to the Vatican, but instead of exposing the genocide, the church allegedly helped launder money and valuables, fearing Hitler's wrath if they didn't cooperate. Posner argues that the church compromised its moral position to maintain power and financial gains. Rumors abound that the Sistine Chapel's basement is filled with Nazi loot. Vatican bankers have allegedly been involved in scandals, including robberies, murder, and multi-million-dollar mafia deals. For instance, in 1982, Roberto "God's Banker" Calvi was found hanging from Blackfriars Bridge in London, possibly murdered over stolen mafia money from the Vatican. In 1973, the US Department of Justice investigated the Vatican Bank for dealing in stolen and counterfeit securities. The FBI claims New York mobsters plan to sell counterfeit stocks and bonds to the Vatican, which a cardinal intended to use as collateral for financing. David A. Yallop's book, In God's Name, explores the suspicious death of Pope John Paul I, who had been investigating Vatican bank corruption before his sudden demise. Coincidence? I think not. The Vatican holds one of the world's largest art collections, including hundreds of Michelangelo letters. However, many artworks have been hidden since World War II, leading to suspicions that some pieces are Nazi loot. And what's even more suspicious is that in 2000, detectives caught a Vatican Monsignor running a money laundering art scheme using fake certificates to authenticate fraudulent paintings. So he's probably not the only corrupt individual in the Vatican. Since World War II, the Roman Catholic Church has grappled with its relationship with Jewish people. In 1965, the Church stated that God holds Jews most dear. However, this sentiment was noticeably absent during the war. So is the Vatican hiding Nazi art? The mystery remains, with the truth potentially buried deep within the Vatican's secret archives. Vatican porn collection. For centuries, there have been rumors that the Vatican is in possession of the largest collection of pornography in the world. How disgraceful. I mean, if this is true, it would be one of the biggest scandals ever. First off, what's the basis of this rumor? People have long claimed that the Vatican's library holds an extensive collection of erotica and pornography. Even notable figures like Camille Paglia, an American academic, and William F. Buckley Jr., a political commentator, have mentioned this as fact. However, according to Father Leonard Boyle, the chief librarian for the Vatican Library until his retirement in 1998, there's absolutely no truth to it. Is it weird that I'm a little bummed? Boyle, who managed the library's 1.5 million scholarly books and 150,000 precious manuscripts, found no evidence of any pornographic material. Despite scouring the library, Boyle states, "I certainly haven't come across it, but it makes a nice story." So where did this rumor come from? The origins are unclear, but the idea has been perpetuated by visitors to places like Copenhagen's Museum Erotica. There it's claimed that the Vatican holds the largest collection of erotica in the world. This misconception continues to spread, partly because people love a good scandal, especially when it involves an institution like the Vatican. This is likely because the Vatican is known for its strict stance against pornography. But what does the Vatican Library actually contain if it's not littered with smut? Instead of indecent material, the library boasts an impressive array of historical documents. These include 4 of the earliest copies of Virgil from the 4th century and one of the 3 earliest complete texts of the Codex Vaticanus, which contains the Old and New Testaments in ancient Greek. Additionally, the library houses papyrus scrolls of St. Peter's letters, as well as correspondence between Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. There are also letters from Michelangelo asking for payment, highlighting the rich and varied history preserved within the Vatican's walls. So, if not within the Vatican, where is the world's largest collection of pornography? Well, that title belongs to the Kinsey Institute for Sex Research in Bloomington, Indiana, which is about as far away from the Vatican as you can get. The Kinsey Institute houses thousands of volumes, pictures, films, artifacts, and other curiosity that lovers of erotica would love to get their hands on. However, access to this collection is restricted to legitimate researchers, which is absolutely for the best. But just because the Vatican Library is squeaky clean, it doesn't mean that the entire Vatican is. There's a secret bathroom in the Vatican apartments called the Stufetta del Cardinal Bibbiena that's notorious for its graphic images. These images depict suggestive mythological beasts and playful nudes. They were created by the artist Raffaello Sanzio da Urbino. He was commissioned by Pope Leo X sometime in the late 1400s. Raphael was one of the greatest painters of the Renaissance. He couldn't turn down a request from the Pope. Pope Leo X was known as a big supporter of the arts. He sponsored several Vatican works, all of which were completed by Raphael, although not all of them were quite as scandalous as the paintings found within the Stufetto del Cardinal Bibbiena. According to writer Tony Peretet, who snuck into the secret bathroom to explore the erotic images, the frescoed panels were designed by Raphael like a graphic novel. He said many of the images recount the adventures of the goddess of love, Venus, and the god of desire, Cupid. Apparently, these were placed in the bathroom for the Pope to enjoy as he relaxed in his hot tub. But maybe he was relaxing a little too much. I mean, didn't he believe that God is always watching? Apparently, some of the more risque frames have since been destroyed. But it makes you think, what is the Pope really up to behind closed doors? Especially in this secret porn-filled bathroom. The idol of nightmares. The Vatican contains some pretty crazy stuff, but there are some objects that are just a little too cursed for the Pope to touch with a 10-foot pole. And one of these cursed objects is called the idol of nightmares. Like the name suggests, this thing allegedly causes those who come into contact with it to experience bizarre, vivid dreams. It's also said to trigger technological malfunctions and other phenomena that are consistent with demonic hauntings. This idol was discovered in a burlap sack beneath a home in the city of Dayton, Ohio. Oh, and I forgot to mention that it was bound, as if whoever buried it thought it might claw its way back up to the surface. It dates to between the late 1700s and around early 1800s and is believed to originate from Africa, given its unique design. The idol is in the shape of a man. It has an elongated head with large eyes and an exaggerated nose, mouth, and ears. It appears to be wearing a head covering, and its forehead is decorated with a large triangle and a couple of dots painted in white. And in contrast, the rest of the idol is coated in black paint. The idol itself is made of wood. At the moment, the Idol of Nightmares is kept at the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and Occult. Not long after it was donated, the museum's curators began to experience some pretty strange stuff. Any photos or videos of the idol were mysteriously corrupt, and some of them simply vanished altogether. They also began to have nightmares that were far beyond normal. No wonder this idol is believed to be cursed. To make things even creepier, the curators did some EVP sessions with the idol and yielded some terrifying results. They didn't hear strange whispering in an unidentified language. They heard horrifying guttural screams, and as they did more and more sessions, the idol allegedly began to speak incomplete sentences. Whatever entity possessing the idol called people by name and even referenced past events. And according to the curators, it also started cracking jokes after some time. After the idol started gaining popularity at the museum, visitors started to bring it offerings. And guess what happened to those people? They all died. No, I'm joking. Actually, their lives started being affected in positive ways not long after. Some people said they were miraculously saved from potentially life-threatening car accidents, and others claimed to find themselves in strokes of good luck. Further study on the idol showed that it was an ancient artifact that originated in central Congo, and turns out this thing was likely never cursed at all. In fact, researchers now believe that it likely belonged to a local tribal healer. Stories emerged from the region of the idol being used by the healer to heal the sick, predict the future, and punish criminals. Apparently, the healer would communicate with the entity inside the idol in his dreams, where it would teach the healer all sorts of things. The Idol of Nightmares, which is known simply as Billy these days by the museum curators, is currently the most communicative and active item in the entire collection. But who really is this entity inside the idol? And can he really be trusted? Either way, the Vatican refuses to communicate with spirits, unless their priests are performing an exorcist, of course. Lapis Diaboli, Devil's Stone. The Devil's Stone, or the Lapis Diaboli, is a mysterious artifact that's tied to the Roman Church of Santa Sabina. The church itself was built in the 5th century on Aventine Hill. It's a remarkably well-preserved early Christian church that has a bizarre history involving, you guessed it, the devil himself. Named after a Roman noblewoman who was martyred for her faith, the basilica is an architectural gem adorned with 24 white marble columns from the Temple of Juno. But beyond its historical significance, Santa Sabina holds a curious relic, the Devil's Stone. According to legend, the devil himself tried to tempt Saint Dominic while he prayed at Santa Sabina. When his efforts failed, the devil, in a fit of rage, hurled a heavy black basalt stone at Saint Dominic. But the stone missed and struck a slab, which remains broken to this day. The fiery marks from the devil's fingers are said to be visible on the stone, now perched atop a small twisted column in the church. The legend continues that the devil occasionally returns to Santa Sabina, lingering at the basilica's door before leaving in defeat. This tale has captivated the faithful for centuries, adding a layer of mystique to the already enchanting church. Over the years, the stone, which resembles a curling stone with holes and engravings, has become shiny from the faithful rubbing it. However, historical records suggest the stone is actually the weight of a Roman scale found in the church's basement. According to these records, the slab was broken during a restoration in 1527 by the architect Domenico Fontana. Despite the more mundane explanation, the legend of the Devil's Stone persists, and it's easy to see why. The idea of a tangible relic of the devil's anger is far more thrilling than a piece of old Roman equipment. This combination of historical significance and legendary lore makes Santa Sabina a captivating destination. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.